Now, the topic, as you know, is to try and understand the debate that goes on in the UK regarding moon sighting. So we're in Shaban now, and it's the time of year when everybody's wondering when is Ramadan and when does fasting start. Now, when does fasting start? There's two issues here. One is, which date does fasting start? And the second issue is, at what time are you going to start your fasting in the morning? What I'm going to discuss with you today is to do with the first issue, i.e. the date which Ramadan starts and the date on which Ramadan ends. The other is also a big topic, but I don't have any intentions of trying to cover that. Right? So as you know, this issue has been going on for decades now. So the determination of the start and end of Ramadan has been a source of contention and aggravation for decades amongst the Muslims in the UK. Eid, an occasion which should bring joy and happiness, as well as promote unity amongst the Muslims, instead brings anguish, anxiety, and disunity. How can we justify a situation where our neighbors are celebrating Eid and we are fasting? Or some members of one family are fasting while other members are celebrating Eid? How can those who make such decisions allow such a situation to continue year after year after year? This is the basic outline of my presentation. Okay? So the sun and the moon are mentioned in the Quran in a number of places. So this is from Surah An'am, where it says, وَجَعَلَّ اللَّيْلَ سَكَنًا وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ حُسْبَانًا. And he who has made the night for rest, and sun and moon for reckoning of time. This is the decree of the exalted, the all-knowing. And then again in Surah Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَسَأَلُونَكَ عَنِ اللَّهِ. They ask you about the hilals. قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ وَالْحَجِّ. Say these are to mark fixed times for mankind and Hajj. And again in Surah Rahman, it says, Ash-shamsu wal-qamru bihusban. And you see that I've quoted the tafsir of Ibn Kathir on this ayah. And Ibn Kathir, rahmatullah alayhi, has written that sun and the moon run on fixed courses. They move in their orbit in perfect succession according to precise calculation, and is never delayed nor disturbed. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used the word here, husban, rather than hisab, and that indicates precision of time. So I'm going to start off by saying something about the basic science of moon sighting. So obviously you need to understand that to be able to understand the issues that are related to this topic. Hopefully most of you will be familiar with this. You will have done this at school. So if you can bear with those of you who not familiar with this. Right. So as you all know, there's only one sun, as far as we're concerned. It rises every day, it sets every day, and it can only be seen when it's above the Earth's horizon, and it has its own light. The moon is much the same. As far as we're concerned, there's only one moon. It rises every day and it sets every day. It can only be seen if it's above the Earth's horizon, just like the sun. But it does not have its own light. So it's dependent on the light of the sun so that we can see it. Okay. The position and time of sunrise and sunset varies during the year. We all know that. And this is similarly so for the moon. The position and time of moonrise and sunset and moonset also varies. Many people are not familiar with the concept that we do have moonrise and moonset. Right, so as you all know, the moon orbits the Earth. So, done a little simulation here. All of you here are, like very intelligent, but this is to cover all people, not just for this audience here. Right. And as you know, the Earth orbits the Sun in that manner. Yeah? And they both spin on their axis. So there's a simulation showing you the Moon is going around the Earth and the Earth is going around the Sun. Okay. Now this is to show you that the orbit of the Earth and the Moon are not in the same axis. They're tilted. Okay. Now you'll appreciate this later on when we discuss about lunar and solar eclipse. The fact that their axis is not in the same plane. So next, if we look at the moon phases. So if we start off at a point where the Moon, the Sun, and the Earth, the geocenters of these three things are in the same vertical plane. This is what we would call conjunction of the Moon. It's also known as birth of the Moon. You can also call it the new Moon, the invisible Moon, the astronomical new Moon. So at this point, let me just go back, show that to you. So what we've got is the center of the Sun, this is the Moon, and this is the Earth. They're all in the same vertical plane. And that just more or less says what I've said. The astronomical birth of the Moon, also known as the new Moon birth. The Moon passes between, so the new Moon is when the Moon passes between the Sun and the Earth. The centers of the Sun, Moon, and Earth are all in the same plane, same vertical plane. The Sun's elliptic longitude and Moon's elliptical longitude are in the same plane with reference to the center of the Earth. That's more or less what I've said. This instant in time can be calculated precisely by the scientists and the astronomers. At this point, the new Moon is not visible. Okay. So when the Moon is between the Earth and the Sun, that is the point where we get the solar eclipse. Now you would ask yourself, well, why don't we get a solar eclipse every month, when the Moon comes in between the Sun and the Earth? And the reason for that is because the plane in which the Moon orbits the Earth and the plane in which the Earth orbits the Sun are not in the same plane. You remember that picture I showed you? They're at a tilt of about 5 degrees. So this is a total solar eclipse where the Moon totally obliterates the Sun. So total eclipses are very rare. They occur about every 360 years from one particular location on the Earth. And this is an actual solar eclipse. This is a picture taken from Cairns in Australia. Now, as I was saying, the scientists have gained sufficient knowledge about the movement of the Earth and the Sun and the Moon to be able to predict precisely when these solar eclipses occur. So this is evidence to show their understanding of the movements of these bodies. So the next total solar eclipse in the UK will be on the 23rd of September 2090 at a time close to sunset. And the maximum duration will be 2 minutes, 10 seconds in Cornwall. Now, as I say, the scientists can predict the time of conjunction of the Moon very precisely. But for them to predict the time at which the new Moon crescent is visible, is more difficult because there's a lot more variable factors which are difficult to predict. And some of those include local factors such as the weather conditions, and also is dependent on the observer, the experience of the observer, the eyesight of the observer, so on and so forth. However, they have produced models to try and tell us when the first visibility of the new moon crescent is likely to take place. And some of these conditions include the age of the moon from the time of conjunction. And the record for that is 15.4 hours. So, no, and this is with the naked eye. And this was actually done last century. Now that's another factor. The pollution since then has increased. So what people could see 100 years ago under particular conditions are not necessarily the same as what we can do now. The age of the moon is not the deciding factor. What is more important is what's known as the angle of elongation. This is the angle. As the moon moves away from the time of conjunction, an angle is formed between the moon, the earth, and the sun. This is known as the angle of elongation. And this is probably one of the most important factors deciding whether it is possible to be able to see the new moon crescent or not. The other factor is how high the moon is above the Earth's horizon. And current models suggest that the altitude should be about 10 degrees or more at sunset. The other factor is something known as lag time. This is the time between sunset and moonset. Because the new moon crescent is seen shortly after conjunction, that means the sun and the moon are about the same place in the sky. And if they're close together, it means the sun's light will obliterate the moon's light that is reflected. So there has to be a certain amount of time for the light of the sun to disappear before the new moon crescent becomes visible. And the lag time is being put at about 22 minutes. Again, as I said, atmospheric conditions play a great part. Even if all these conditions are fulfilled and you've got cloudy sky, you're not going to be able to see the new moon crescent. One of the important papers on this is by Bernard Yallop, who used to be head of the Royal Observatory. He's retired now. The model that he developed with slight modifications is the one used by the astronomers nowadays. Yeah. Right, so these are the different moon phases. So you've got, this is the new moon, yeah. So that's where conjunction occurs. And then the crescent obviously gets bigger. You've got the first quarter, and then you get the full moon on the 13th and 14th and 15th of the lunar month. And then the moon crescent gets smaller, and then you get the waning crescent, and then it becomes, you don't see the moon at all, yeah, for about 24 to 36 hours. And then you see the new moon crescent roundabout down there. That just shows you the same sort of thing again. Now, these are actual moon phases taken from December 2009. And you'll see that, so this is where the full moon is, yeah? 13, 14, and 15th of the lunar month. And then we go on to here where the moon disappears. This is known as Mahak in Arabic. Now, if you see the new moon crescent there, the first of the lunar month will be there. But strictly speaking, as soon as you see the new moon crescent, the Islamic month will start, because the Islamic day starts at Maghrib. We don't wait for midnight for the new day to start. But since most of us have been brought up in this country, the way to think of it is that the day will start on the 18th, yeah, not on the 29th. So you see your new moon crescent on that night, and that's your first, the new lunar month will start on that date. Yeah. So here are some key points which you need to appreciate to be able to appreciate the debate that we're going to discuss later on. So the new moon can occur at any time of the day. So the astronomical new moon, known as the conjunction of the moon, also called birth of the moon, new moon birth, whatever you want to call it, it can occur at any time of the day. And I've already said that the Islamic day begins at Maghrib. So the Islamic month begins on sighting of the hilal, not the new moon crescent. So not at the birth of the new moon. Okay? Hilal becomes visible many hours after the new moon birth, after conjunction.
15.4.
Well, that's the record, right? Which, that's the record that has been done with the naked eye. Yeah, that's like 15. Okay, this is an important point. The earliest visibility location of the new moon crescent starts from a different location on the earth every month. And this earliest location is not repeated for hundreds of years. That's an important point to remember. Other key facts. From the earliest observation point, the visibility extends westwards in a parabola fashion. The reason it extends westwards is because the earth rotates in a counterclockwise fashion if you're looking at it from the north. Once the new moon crescent is seen, it becomes visible virtually all over the inhabitable world in the next 24 hours. So I'll show you diagrams to illustrate that. So what this means is that if the new moon crescent is sighted at any location on earth, for instance, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, then it must become visible on locations west of that point, such as Egypt, Libya, Morocco, which all lie to the west of Saudi Arabia. And there it should be easier to see because the moon is becoming older, the crescent is getting bigger. So this is just to illustrate that point. That's Saudi Arabia. Right? So if the moon crescent is seen there, Egypt is about an hour later, Libya, Algeria, Morocco. So if the new moon crescent is seen there, it becomes bigger and older. So all these countries must necessarily also see the new moon crescent, providing there's not cloud cover. If they're not, then there's something wrong. For the same reason, when the sun rises in India, an hour or two later you're going to see it in Pakistan, and then in Iran, and then in Saudi Arabia. It's the same principle. It must. And these are just to show you the time zones. So the Earth is divided. The Earth takes 24 hours to spin once, and one spin is 360 degrees. So if you divide 360 degrees by 24, you get 15 degrees. So for every 15 degrees shift to either side, you either lose an hour or you gain an hour until you get to the international date line. Then if you move across that, you lose a day or you gain a day. The other thing to note from this, at any particular time, there are two dates on Earth. You never have one date. So for instance, today is what? The 30th of May? So there'll be, will there be 29? There'll be places which are a day ahead or a day in front of us. Okay, that was just to highlight again, just to show you that all these countries lie west, Saudi Arabia, on the same latitude. Okay. Now, this is what's diagrams, some of you may have seen this. This is what's known as the moon visibility curves. And this moon visibility curve is taken on March the 20th. Yeah. So these color codings are to denote the probability of you being able to see the new moon crescent. So green indicates that the new moon crescent is easily visible with the naked eye. So there's nowhere on the earth on the evening of Friday, March of 20th, that the new moon crescent was easily visible by the naked eye. Light blue indicates that it's visible if the conditions are perfect. That means atmospheric conditions are perfect. Gray indicates that you need an optical aid to be able to see the new moon crescent. So the optical aid could be a telescope or a binoculars or something similar. D indicates that, I should have said, C indicates that you need the optical aid to firstly find the new moon crescent, and then you might be able to convince yourself whether you can see it with the naked eye or not. And red zone indicates that you can only see the new moon crescent with the aid of an optical aid. You can't see it with the naked eye. The black area, so all that means there's no chance of seeing the new moon crescent. So this is the next day now. Yeah? So we moved on to Saturday, the 21st of March. Now, I should have said this, you mentioned, I said it spreads in a parabola. This is a parabola, yeah? Just that shape is called a parabola. And you see that the way it's spread is going to say the red and the gray areas would theoretically end up here. And the green area, you didn't have it because it would have been there theoretically. So if you look at now, on the 21st of March, 2015, on Saturday, the new moon crescent was visible with the naked eye, easily visible with the naked eye, providing the weather conditions were favorable in most of the inhabitable world. Okay, now the reason I went 21st of March. So again, this one diagram shows you the Hilal visibility curves on the 18th of May, Monday 18th of May this year. So you'll see that the moon, the Hilal, would have been easily visible in this part of the world with the naked eye. It would have been visible in this part of the world, mainly South America, Central America, if the conditions were perfect. You would need an optical aid to be able to find it. The gray area, red, you would definitely need an optical aid. But in this part of the world, so that's Asia, Europe, the Hilal was not visible at all. And the next day, obviously, as I was saying, after about 24 hours, it becomes visible in virtually most of the inhabitable world. So, So 18th of May was also the 29th of Rajab. So So the astronomical new moon conjunction took place on May the 18th, 2015 at 04:13 GMT. And on May the 18th, as we've said, it would have been impossible. It would have been possible but difficult to see the moon in the Americas. Yeah? The only possibility of easy sighting would have been in Hawaii and the Polynesian Islands. So somewhere around there. Now this is just to show you that if you look for these hilal visibility diagrams, then they don't all use the same colors, but the principles are the same. There are people around the world who every month on the 29th of each lunar month go around looking for the new hilal, and that includes several groups in the UK. We have one in our locality. They go out on the 29th of every month to look for the hilal. And these people then report it. So you'll see that on May 18th, 2015, Monday, there's somebody reported from Barbados, Ghana, Iraq, Kenya, Nigeria. They've all stated that they did not see the new moon crescent. Oman, Saudi Arabia, Tanzania, Trinidad, and so on. So this is one of the groups in the UK, they're known as Wifaqul Ulama, who report on these sort of things. And they've stated that we received negative sighting news from all the groups observing the hilal in the UK. We have also received negative reports of actual sighting from the Ministry of Awqaf in Morocco in writing. Therefore, we will complete 30 days of Rajab, and the first day of Shaban will therefore be on Wednesday, 20th of May, in accordance with the Sunnah-based calendar, inshallah. And I'll talk a little bit more about this later on. But there was a negative sighting from Saudi Arabia as well. Although in Saudi Arabia, it doesn't get officially reported for Shaban. So this is a fax from the Ministry of Religious Endowments and Islamic Affairs in Morocco. They send one of these faxes every month to the UK, whether there's been a positive sighting or a negative sighting. And they've written, Assalamu alaikum, the Ministry of Religious Endowments and Islamic Affairs did watch today on Monday, 29th of Rajab, 1436 AH, corresponding to May the 18th, 215 AD. The crescent moon of Shaban, 1436, they have 278 viewing points, and all of them reported negative finding. Therefore, the month of Rajab has fulfilled 30 days, and Shaban will start on Wednesday, May the 20th. So this is Wifaqul Ulama. They've stated that Shaban will start on Wednesday, 20th of May. Right. This is one of the masjids from my town. Yeah. So you'll see that they're starting their Shaban on Tuesday. This is another big Islamic group in the UK. They've also started it on Tuesday. This is a pre-printed calendar, so you can forgive them for getting that, you don't want to criticize them or say much on that. But this is done on a monthly basis. And they have stated that the month of Rajab 1436 has 29 days, and Tuesday 19th of May is the first of Shaban. Okay, see. So now so we've got 2 different days for Shaban. These people have got their evidences that nobody sighted the hilal anywhere in the world on the on Monday. So they completed their 30 days. I don't know what that evidence is, why they've started it on, but it'll come clear later on why they've started theirs on Tuesday, but there is no evidence that I'm aware of why that should have been started on the on Tuesday. So those of which, I mean, for instance, yes, I should mention this. So Shab-e Barat, which a lot of people, I suppose, maybe celebrate is the wrong word, but acknowledge in India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, even Iran, it's apparently a fairly big thing. The people in the Middle East don't. In fact, they have negative views on celebrating it. So they've got no interest. Saudi Arabia's got no interest when Shaban starts, right? Except to be able to align it for the next month of Ramadan. So there's no official announcement from Saudi Arabia. So now then, the question is, when are you going to do your Shab-e Barat? So there'll be 2 different dates for that. So people following these masjids will do it on a different date from these guys. Right, now what have I got here? Okay, that's just to more or less, yeah, that just to show you that for the halal visibility for the month of Shaban, the earliest reported sighting was on May the 19th, and it came from Melbourne in Australia. I've already shown you that diagram. And this actually shows you that this is not the halal, right? This is the moon crescent as is going down. So this is the waning moon crescent just before the month ends. So you see this is taken on May the 17th at 0504 in the AM by somebody in Indonesia. So after that, the moon will become dark for a period of 24 to 36 hours. Then you will get the new halal crescent. So that would indicate it would be impossible. Just that evidence in itself would indicate it would be impossible to see the new halal on the 18th. So this is on the May the 19th. This is the halal sighting from Australia. So they saw it on Australia, even though it was visible in most of the world, only because Australia is ahead of time than everybody else. So they're obviously going to see it first, time-wise, because everybody else will be asleep. Okay, just want to highlight some of the key points now. So the earliest visibility location of the new moon crescent starts from a different location on the earth every month. And it does not repeat itself for hundreds of years. From the time the new moon crescent is first seen, it becomes visible virtually all over the inhabitable world in the next 24 hours. So if the new moon crescent is sighted at any location, such as Saudi Arabia, it must necessarily become visible in countries to west of that first location. So in case of Saudi Arabia, it must become visible in Egypt, Libya, Morocco, and all those other countries lying to the west of Saudi Arabia. And the reason for that is the hilal is getting older, bigger, easier to see. Okay, I'm going to stop there, I think. These are just pictures from previous halal sightings when there's been big controversies in 2011. Those of you may remember to do with Ramadan and Eid during that year. And sometimes the halal is actually very difficult to see. Somebody's got good eyesight to see that. He's actually pointed it out that the halal is there. So so it is dependent, observer dependent as well. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. If you've got any questions just on that, on the basic science, you can ask me. But the second part of the presentation, inshallah, will be to discuss why we've got these debates going on and why we can't agree on starting Ramadan on the same date and ending it on the same date.